goes for Shearer. Shearer gets it inside. Close is going to score his second try.
I think I have to close. Close is round his man. Put it away to Boosted. And Boosted's into the corner.
I'm serious when I say I would have died for that jersey.
And it's already on. Punches being thrown from everybody. That's Chris Close in there.
If that was a requirement, I was ready to go.
What an explosive start to this match.
Close accelerates and does beautifully. Right through the gap. He's been leading pointless. He's under the post.
Chris Close, of all the Queenslanders, of the immortals, of the champions, of the Hall of Famers, of the outback footy bush heroes, you might be the proudest Queenslander of them all.
Nice way to start, yeah. It certainly means a lot to me. It has done right from the get-go. It's been something that I personally have, cherished the opportunity and the privilege that I've had to not only play for Queensland, but to manage the team.
This fellow here, look for him. Chris Close is a hard-running, chunky type of player with plenty of pace. One to watch tonight, particularly effective when he comes on the burst. Number 3.
The local copper's son, obviously footy mad, but then very quickly your size and strength caught up to this obsession you had with rugby league. So it was always footy for you.
My brother was playing and he was about 5 years older than me, so I remember that he got to stay at school and do training. So I got it in my mind that I was going to skip the bus and go and see what this rugby league thing was all about. And I remember I got to the Oval and there was one tree, I think it's still there, and I was hiding down behind this tree just watching what was going on. And I was absolutely enthralled. And one of the players got the ball and he took off and something possessed me and I flew out from behind the tree and down the bank and onto the field and smashed him and the ball went in the air. My brother yelled out, "It's my brother, kill him."
Kill him.
Yeah. So I took off and I ran back off the Oval and down through under the school and out the front gate of the school gate. And just as my dad pulled up in the police car, wondering why I hadn't got the bus.
Under 15s, you make your first sort of rep team, and you're this big corn-fed kid from out playing at Bow Desert by this stage, and it's a pretty handy class of this 59. There must have been something in the water. So you've got Wally Lewis, Gene Miles, you're all in this sort of one scene together around the same age. It must have been pretty special.
We actually played in the grand final that year. We didn't win, but we played against Wally. Wally was the Valley's captain. He was like the bourgeois player, he had the long hair and the tan skin and
always very stylish.
He was.
Yes.
I look back at it and think how lucky I was, how privileged I was to be playing in that company.
You've been described as coming up through the soil of Queensland, and I guess that's sort of the footprint, whether it was South Burnett or Bow Desert or Cunnamulla, and really the ingredients that go into those early years for you, growing up with that grit and a sense of nothing's going to come easy. Do you reckon that was sort of the making of you?
It definitely was, and I think growing up in a police home as well sort of showed me that if you wanted to find, your pathway in life, you had to fight for it.
By the time you got to Cunnamulla, Slim Dusty's Cunnamulla file could have been written about you. This young buck strolls into the local footy team, takes over captaincy, does this amazing drought-breaking historic premiership season, scored how many tries?
54.
That is ridiculous. You must have been the best thing to hit Cunnamulla ever.
Well, I probably thought I was, but the boys hadn't won a premiership for 19 years when I got there. And just while I was there, one morning, it was a Saturday morning, these trio of fellas sort of jumped into the pub and they said, "Oh, Chris, we'd like to talk to you." They said, "Oh, we heard you played football and we just wondered if you'd like to come and play at Cunnamulla next year." And I said, "Oh, well, I've already signed a contract to play at Bow Desert." And they said, "Oh, well, we want to pay you." And I said, "Yeah, no, well, it's a paid contract at Bow Desert." And I'd signed on for $1,000. They said, "How much they paying you?" And I said, "Well, here's my chance, I said, $1,500.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. So they said, "Well, we'll give you $2,000.
Oh, so you've doubled your money.
So I signed on. They had the contract already there, so I signed on to it, and it got the better of me. And I said to them, "You know what?" I said, "I can't believe that you've just signed a player and you've never seen me play a game." And they said, "We asked your mother. She said you were very good." So we won the premiership. We're still probably my favourite year of rugby league ever in existence. We just had so much fun as a club and a team, and we had a coach who was so unique. But he also instilled a lot of that desire into me as well. I remember one night we were having a few beers and Kerry Boasted had just played for Australia. I think he was the youngest player that they'd ever picked.
There he goes. Boasted. The little fella kicks away from a tiring New Zealand defence to score Australia's 4th try.
We were sitting there, you know, just talking about it, and he said, "There's no reason you can't be there." And that lit the fuse. And I knew then that I had to stand up. My ultimate goal then to play for Australia, which finally happened only 2 years later.
Attack now from Australia. As Revo got it back, and there's a try. Chris Close is in to score.
Went to Brisbane, signed a contract with Valleys, and we won the premiership that year in '79.
The Valley centre pair, Vic Whelan and Chris Close, probably the biggest and strongest centre pair in Brisbane club football, and their clash with Meninga and Astle should be a highlight of the match. '79,
that grand final, it's sort of a pretty famous one. Did you mark up against Mal?
I did, yeah. He was my opposite, and I scored the first try.
McQuarter, Strudwick, long one to Mills, then Chris Close, Close will score! Yes! Great football, Fortitude Valley.
And I remember I charged onto the ball, and I can't remember who passed it to me, but went a little bit behind me, and I sort of just instinctively clamped it and then hit my backside. And I'm thinking, I can't let it go because there was no one in front of me, and I'm thinking, they're all going to say it hit your big fat ass and you couldn't catch it. So I hung on to it and I reached it up and pulled it and I ran around and scored. So it saved my bacon that day.
Close has just pulled in from behind him. They can't catch him. He's too strong and too fast.
The names involved on that day just went on to change the game forever. You, Wally, Wayne, Mal, like it just all came together in that one really pretty incredible moment, watershed moment.
It was, yeah. Like, and then the following year, obviously, you know, we went into State of Origin.
Now there's a sight to see. Big Artie in the maroon of Queensland and captain.
People talk about that night at Lang Park and the atmosphere and the passion, but really it's Artie Beetson that steals that whole scene.
Yes, couldn't have been scripted better.
Well, there's no doubt about it. Arthur is excited about leading a Queensland team for the first time, and real professional that he is, he'll want it to be a winning team.
The most charismatic rugby league player that's ever played the game. A person who represented not only himself, his family, but his culture in the best possible way. He was such a leader.
Arthur's laying down the law out there in no uncertain terms.
You would do anything for Arthur. I would have killed for him. I would have died for him. And he made you feel that way. He made you feel special, and he spoke to you with respect and dignity and decency. And he made us believe in ourselves, and we never had that before. We never had any. It was always, you know, we might win this or we could win this if we... And he said, we will win this.
Arthur beats him, first touch. Nothing half-hearted about the way he went into that.
What was the lead-up? What went on in the Australian camp that really sowed some seeds there and fed into the animosity and a bit of the chip on the shoulder that we see from the Queenslanders?
I had some things that happened to me personally. One of the things that really challenged me was on the last game we played against Auckland, and I got a cork thigh. Had to get on the plane the next day to go home. And we got to the airport, we got our tickets. Flying back on a jumbo, and I looked at my ticket. It was in the middle of a row, so I couldn't bend my leg. It was straight, and there were 4 cockroaches, I'll call them, sitting in an exit row. And then I went over and with my ticket, and I said, "Would one of you guys swap with me?" They went, "No." And that moment, by the time we got from there to that first game in 1980, I was ready to die.
What was your first training session like as Queenslanders?
The catalyst of it all was Arthur. First words that came out of his mouth, he said, "You know what? I've come up here to win." He said, "This is the first and only game I've got to captain this state. And if any of you blokes don't think you can win, there's the gate. See you later. You don't belong in this team." That was it for me. I don't know how anyone else felt, but there was no turning back. That was all I needed, was somebody to say you can.
So walking into the dressing rooms, game day, Lang Park, and your kit's beside Artie's. That's a moment.
I feel so lucky just to have had that chance, and I did. I sat down beside him and I just watched him. I watched him pull his jersey on, standing there watching this big man just pull it on, and he's ripped it down, and he's grabbed a bag of resin, and then he's just beat his chest with it like this, and the resin dust is smoking around like that. And he grabbed a jar of Vicks or Vaseline, I'm not sure, and he put his two big fingers in there. He got the biggest wad of Vaseline, and he shoved it up his nose, and he wiped his cheeks with it. And I went, Jesus Christ, we're going to war. This is a battle. He's preparing for the biggest battle. We followed him out. The roar that came as he emerged out of the tunnel, it was a moment in history for Queensland. It changed Queensland forever.
That snapshot of Artie, and he's got that resin all over his jersey, and he runs out to that reception, and the greatest reception the game can give. And you're right, from that moment on, you must have felt bulletproof.
Pass out there to Reddy. Reddy gets it back inside too. Close. Close goes close. I wasn't trying to make a play on words there with close going close, but he did go near the line.
I'm serious when I say I would have died for that jersey for Arthur that night. If that was a requirement, I was ready to go. And I made a conscious decision that I was going to do as much as I could in every aspect of my game to be a part of that game so that we finally would feel that victory.
I can still see how much it means to you and how much it changed probably who you are and what it meant for you in that moment, because it's still so strong.
And that's why I speak the way I speak now about our state. And you know, when I get the opportunity to tell other people how important that is, and it's not just a game of rugby league, it changed our state. You know, we've got a lot to say thank you to one Arthur Beetson.
Well, there's another head high. The referee's missed that one.
Talk us through the try. Mal offloads to you. You're what, 35 metres out, but you're flat-footed.
Unloads to Meninga. Nicely to Close. Close accelerates and does beautifully right through the gap. He's beaten Edie pointless. It's under the post for him. One to the right.
I'm thinking, Mel, what are you doing?
Got a bit of work to do.
Have a go.
Yeah, you go.
He gave it to me. Thankfully, he did. I've been dining out on it ever since. But I got the ball and I looked up and I thought, I'm going to have to change my path. And I cut back in and I ran. And as I ran, Graham Eadie, one of the greatest fullbacks that ever played our game, one of the hardest hitters. And I'm thinking, here I am. It's me or him. I just changed direction and done a big arc. And he dived and he missed me.
Graham Eadie didn't get within a bull's roar of him. And the Queensland crowd loving every minute of it.
There's a beautiful image of you and Artie sitting side by side in the dressing rooms after that game. And it really captures what rugby league was for Queensland in that moment. Yeah, for you now to still have that little snapshot forever. Yeah. It's pretty incredible.
And it is my favourite rugby league photo. I've got it, and I've got it in a couple of formats, but the format that I like the most is where you can see the durry I got in one hand and you can see the can, I think, KB Gold he had in his hand. For me, that epitomised our journey. That was where we'd come from, and here we are on the greatest stage of rugby league in history.
Your favourite Origin moments?
When Arthur, he cracked Graham Wynn, I think, right on the chin.
Now they're at it. The natives are definitely restless. Beetson's involved.
For me, that was, I went, yes, finally we've got somebody that they can't dominate.
There's a little bit of a right hand that hit about the kneecap.
And it was open slather, and I remember I smacked Tommy Dradonicus, and Tommy went down. He was knocked out, half knocked out, and got up wobbling and carrying on, and I attacked Alan Thompson straight away after that. I was that wild and that anxious, and I got him and he hit the ground. I remember his head hit the ground and he looked at me and he said, "What have you been eating?" "Rusty nails." I said, "Shut up." We took control of the game from that moment on, and that was, once again, it was Arthur who showed us that if you're willing to stand up for yourself, you can.
I'm so glad you brought up the fights, because the image, like, wild of you, like swinging at anything in blue, and you got the kit off, your jersey's off.
That was 84,
but you're and people, like, there are blokes running away from you and you're chasing them down.
That moment, I mean, once again, it was a moment that just erupted.
Dean Miles is looking to kick, but the New South Wales defence swarming in. That's already on. Punches being thrown from everybody. That's Chris Close in there. Brett Finney's involved as well on the ground as Brent Gillespie. Ray Price, all training blows well. Jack Gibson, what an explosive start to this match.
You're not a bloodthirsty kind of guy, but any hint of a little bit of biff, and you were there, you were front and centre.
Well, the referee's allowed it to go on. Chris Close has lost his jumper. Fireworks falling from the sky. What a start to this State of Origin match.
My father had one bit of advice to me: if you're right, you fight. And that's been my catch cry forever. But, you know, once again, it was sticking up for my mate. Gene was running the ball out, and then they started punching him. I mean, you can't hide those things. It's there on the video, and you don't stand back and watch your teammates get punched. You know, just a bit of a sideline to that. That was the first year ever that they had the big video scoreboard at the SCG. And I came in after the game and walked into the SG Noble bar where my wife was waiting. And the first words that come out of her mouth, she said, "Jesus, Chop, your guts took up the whole screen."
Not true.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, darling.
Yeah, thanks very much. I feel a lot better now.
Yeah, that makes me feel a whole lot better. But you won the fight, so it's all good.
Well, Ian, I'm amazed that Gomersall just stood back and let him go as he did in Brisbane in the National Panasonic game, and he's done it again here today. He's let him punch it out. Chris Close lost his jumper. We've said it's World War III, and boy, they haven't let us down.
If you type in choppy highlights from Origin, and there's so many clips, right? And I love doing it. There's this great moment where Colin Scott's been tackled. Eric Growth, I think, is trying to maybe clutter up the ruck area, and you've just wailed into him.
Well, he was hanging on.
Up the middle of the field. Growth's coming at him. Rogers coming at him. He's got him. Growth, a magnificent tackle.
It hurt me to do it because Eric, he's still one of the greatest players that I've ever seen play the game. I respect him so much and as a player, and in that moment, we'd done so well to get to where we got. Colin Scott made a magnificent run. And any other game, he would have scored, except in the opposition is Eric Growth, faster than Superman. Eric's cutting down a metre short from the line. And to his credit, he hung on. And I got there and I said, let him go. And there was no response. So I grabbed him by the hair and I pulled his head back. And you can see the footage, and he snaps his head straight back in. So I'd done it again, and before he could get his head back down, I backhanded him. I remember him right on the bridge of the nose. And he just caved in. He just went poof like that. The rest was easy. I just sort of pushed over and put the ball down, and he scored.
The hair's pulled first. A smack in the mouth, a nasty bit of business, which Close, in my estimation, goes down very badly for. But they've scored the try, so one can assume they think the end justifies the means.
And a few years later, we played one of those Legends of League games, and we all assembled at Parramatta, and I was having a beer with Steve Rogers, and he said, I've always been meaning to tell you this, Chop. He said, when you picked the ball up from dummy half and I looked at your eyes, he said they were spinning around like poke machinery. He said, I knew that it was just done. He said, I was happy.
Yeah, that's
just
right.
let him go.
Just give it to him.
Goes to Meninga, out to Close. Close is round his man. Got it away to Bostad, and Bostad's in the corner. It's a great try.
When you look back on your Origin career, what are you most proud of?
Queensland needed a boost. We needed a boost. And to be part of that and to be able to play with the likes of Arthur Beetson and to fully understand what a turning point in the game that was. The players that play today have no understanding of what the game, the position the game was in at that stage. And you've only got to talk to the likes of Ken Arthurson, who was running the game. And he'll tell you categorically, if Queensland loses the first Origin, the NRL may no longer exist in the format that it is. You know, my performances were a thank you.
Close. Bust of the defence. Into the New South Wales quarter.
And even growing up, it gave us a sense of identity and a sense of pride on who we are and what values we wanted to be and how we wanted to see that reflected on the field.
That's one of the nicest things that have been said to me.
Oh.
Thank you.
Oh, no, my pleasure. I hope that you get that sort of feedback because you deserve to hear it. It shaped how we grew up.
can we do it again next weekend?
Sure.
The all-new Tiguan. Fit more life in.
Game 2, I played out there for 2 minutes and I got concussed obviously against Fazell with that kick, and all week Alfie was giving it to me and saying I was 2-minute noodles, calling me Maggie. So yeah, I feel like they found a way of motivating players in different parts of the week, and a little bit of a driving factor for myself as well as my wife's mum was, it was her last ever Origin game, and there was at Suncorp, and I was lucky enough to win the Wally Lewis medal. I know it's probably a bit of a cliche, but I feel like the stars aligned for myself as well.
Wanted a broker that approached it differently to the banks.
Someone that
took the time to understand what we needed.
In finding the right home loan option and rate for us, our Aussie broker was second to none.
Book a chat with an Aussie broker today.
Can you guys see the mountain?
You're doing it wrong! Stop! Dad, can we do it again next weekend?
Sure.
The all-new Tiguan. Fit more life in.
Hey, Taz.
Hey. You know I've been looking for a new job. I reckon I found the one. On Seek.
What's the role?
My title would be King.
King?
King of the jungle.
Oh, sounds outdoorsy.
More flexibility, 130K, no lanyard.
That'd be great for you. No dress code.
What's the dress code?
Never mind.
For the best job matches.
Seek!
And you shall find.
The working life. You wake up, you work, you get paid. You wake up, you work, you get paid. Until one day, you wake up to a whole new rhythm and still get paid. Aware Super helps you find your rhythm of retirement. That's super helpful.
Here we go, folks! Can you believe it?
Abbott, Oliphant, Beatson. That's Ty. Good pass. Back to Holmes, then to Close, and Close has struggled out of the tackle of Reardon. And there's the first Redcliffe try in the 13th minute of the game. And what a good team try.
You went to Redcliffe. You got a bit of a soft spot for the Dolphins?
Love the Dolphins. I mean, when I went to Redcliffe, you know, it came as a bit of a bolt out of the blue. I'd been negotiating with clubs in New South Wales, and I was set to go to Wests, and all of a sudden I got this offer from Redcliffe, and it was almost too good to be true.
Atkins in the centres, and across it comes to Close. Close racing to the line. Here's another try coming up for Redcliffe. Over goes Chris Close, and Redcliffe lead 10-2.
We had some other hardships that happened to us. We'd just been married, and then our first child had passed away, and he's buried at Redcliffe Cemetery. So, special club for me.
And you'll always have a tie to that area and
Absolutely.
that time.
Absolutely. And it was a tough time, but it was also, you know, it also coincided with all the great things that were happening in my life. And it was hard to balance the two, you know, and oftentimes I look back and think if I could have done a better job of balancing that emotion, I might have made a better career out of what I did. But it did influence, you know, a lot of things that happened. It brought fear into my life. I'd never really feared much until that had happened. And, you know, it makes you very vulnerable when you lose, you know, a child. There's nothing needs to be said more than that.
Close might find it. Ferguson gets to him. He's out of Ferguson's tackle, and Chris Close over for a great try. Well, I'd say that clinches the game for Manly Warringah.
The opportunity to move to Manly Warringah then, do you feel like that was something that you wanted to do?
Definitely wanted to do it. For me to turn my back on the Manly scenario would have, you know, I wouldn't probably, you know, had the things I got in life that I got now. When I spoke to the clubs from Sydney, and there were about 8 clubs that came up, it was an exciting time. They'd come and take you for lunch, and I'd go to places I'd never seen silver cutlery. And like it was
big business.
Biggest goose in the world, you know. I was loving it. And we had a set of questions that the solicitors would ask, and, you know, they were generated from our discussions, and then we'd have a meeting afterwards and we'd decide, you know, where we rated every one of them. And Ken Arthurson walks in the room and he goes, yes, yes, yes.
Perfect.
He walked out, he looked at me and I said, yes.
Yeah.
Cox away to Blake. Here comes a try for the Eagles. Close, close. Yes, he's over the big centre. Close gets back inside and he's gone in to score.
Posted now with a beautiful step and a beautiful face up for Chris Close, and he'll go over.
Beat one tackle, Cleel. Inside is Chris Close. Chris Close goes in to score for Manly.
When you're at the Sea Eagles, you got to be reunited with Paul Vaughton. What we probably don't celebrate enough for Fatty was what a great player he was.
The ball's played, Lyons from dummy half. It goes to Vaughton. Vaughton throws the dummy, shows the ball. Vaughton will score. Vaughton's in.
He was a very good player. I mean, he doesn't get the due respect for that. There's not many people that I've been associated with that I would say had the ultimate rugby league brain, and that's why when he coached Queensland in 1995, it was so successful. It was no surprise for me, but I think most of Australia went, what the? But we knew that he had that ability in him.
Fatty he's done the impossible. They couldn't win a game, let alone a series a few weeks ago.
We'll stick with Fatty for now because you mentioned 95. I asked Fatty, I said, I'm talking to Choppy. I said, any stories you can share with me? And he said, in 95, at the first meeting of the Queensland team, Fatty spoke for 20 minutes about what the jumper meant to him and the passion that he felt. He said, I saw Choppy sitting in the back of the room. So without any pre-knowledge, after he'd finished, I said to Chris, man of the match in the first 2 Origins, I'm sure you'd like to say a few words. All 17 players turned. Choppy got out, I just want to say, and then his lips turned into 2 big fat rubber sausages and he started to cry. Robbie O'Davis jumped out of the chair and said, give me a jumper now. That 5 seconds of blubbering was what led to our 3-0 victory. They believed and they delivered.
And that's exactly what happened. I was overwhelmed with the emotion and it come out of my mouth that made any sense. So I just sat down and he went, oh, thank you. And then I was officially made the manager in 95.
Chris Close is reduced to tears. Grown men cry when you talk Origin.
And I've heard you describe that as you're like the guardian of this jersey, and I think that's such a beautiful way of putting it.
Well, I had the opportunities, I suppose, presented to me to be that person, and when people asked me, I spoke honestly and truthfully about it. They left knowing that there's only one important thing for me in rugby league, and that's Queensland and how we perform and how many people sit on that performance. And being from the country and coming into that arena and going back there, the way people's lives changed when they woke up after Queensland had won us that. They went to school with their chest poked out and their heads held high. And that was an amazing thing, a legacy that we could give. It cost nothing, really, except a bit of blood, sweat and tears. So I didn't care if I offended anybody or New South Wales people thought I was a lunatic or whatever, and a lot of them did. A lot of them,
when you're flipping the bird on the sideline, it doesn't make you look that sane.
No.
What was that about?
Oh, like Gus Gould, you know.
Of course it's Gus.
He'd bagged the living daylights out of it for his whole life. He always believed that the Queensland spirit was a myth. So the myth came to light that night when Matty Bowen intercepted the ball.
It's gone on to Kamali. Intercept for Bowen. That's the end of it. Bowen has his hand in the air. Matt Bowen scores.
I couldn't wait for the moment, and I just turned to the bench and gave him the finger.
Queensland have won State of Origin. Matty Bowen, the fresh man, the youngster from North Queensland.
Well, Choppy, you've left such an incredible legacy in the game. You know, you're still very much a champion for us, and we thank you for everything.
Thanks, Bonnie. It's been a great pleasure, mate.